Hey V.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Good evening, V. How
Good
are
evening.
I'm alright.
Right.
It's been quite a long day. How's everyone tonight?
Oh, reasonably fine.
Except it's morning for me in New Zealand.
Yeah. Welcome, welcome.
He's talking from the past. No, from the future, I mean.
Yeah, 12 hours ahead of you guys, or 13.
Well,
11 a.m. for me.
a familiar face. A
Cage.
familiar face from the forums.
Ow.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Where is he? Where is he? There he is. SRY is in the house. Where's Bartender? Should have come as well.
I haven't seen him online yet.
I'll drop him a
might join us
text,
later.
see if he's around.
And Arcangela as well.
So is KageNeko CM or not?
Yes, sir. I'm a community manager for my doc.
He speaks.
There you go.
The cat has spoken. So, who would like to start off with the first giant issue of the day that they have been holding in for the past 6 months?
Instability.
The instability relating to the Barren Divide map.
Mostly global operations, to be honest.
On what maps, except Barren Divide, which we've already covered, has this been happening on?
I think the other map I had was on the Narrows map.
Okay. Was the
But I
Narrows
only have it
map
once.
related to freezes or
It
FPS
was
drops?
related to FPS drops, and then suddenly, getting kicked back to the garage, and then saying it says match failed, while your vehicle's still stuck in there.
Okay. Narrows does have a giant FPS problem. I literally felt the need to just feel like I was going to kill myself every time I got on Narrows with my older PC. I used to have like 4 FPS drops. Like basically just running around with 4 FPS for most of the game. But I haven't heard of Barren Divide or Narrows instability, so I will add
User
that
joined
on.
your channel.
Hello.
Hey Sven.
Hey Sven.
How can I still mess it up?
Okay, has anyone else had any instability issues regarding to being kicked out of game, FPS drops, or any others on any PvP, PvE, or global operations maps?
Yeah, on Spec Ops Phase 4. And yeah, your tank just stops and just have no control over your tank at all.
I had the same thing in Spec Ops Phase 2, literally just 5 minutes ago.
Right.
I get that same issue on just standard PvE.
As I was platooned, my platoon mate said that he could see my tank moving and acting, but for me it was just frozen.
Yeah, the tanks just continue on a path sometimes.
Yep. So you can't see your other teammates moving, the game seems to be frozen. So
Yeah, but what's quite funny, I was in my thing and I saw the terrain going down, and the minimap was still showing the minimap was still showing the enemy on the tank or on the map around my tank, and I could see the terrain getting knocked down, but my actual client, I couldn't actually see any of the enemy tank around me.
yeah, it sounds like some kind of network synchronization issue.
Yeah, I can concur with what Kiwi's saying. That has happened to me like multiple occasions last
Yep.
2 weeks.
Mm. And so the only way to do it is to, alt escape out of the game, kill your client, kill the game at a task manager, and
Yeah.
then you need to end the my.com client as well, so you actually logged off. Otherwise, you get the authentication issue, and then launch the my.com client again, log in, and then restart, and then you're rejoining the match again. So
I
it's
agree.
quite a painful cycle to go through. You can't just end the game and then restart the game. No, you actually have to go in, kill the my.com client, log off, and then get back in. Because otherwise it thinks you're still logged in. I think the authentication server probably
Yeah,
has
it caches your login data, and then you
User
have
joined
two
your
instances trying to log in of the same user. So,
Good
yeah,
evening.
exactly.
Good evening, Muff.
good evening.
Right.
But yeah, have experienced quite a few crashes. Everybody at my battalion have quite regularly.
Just for reference, in PvP we've had crashes last night, this morning, and on Friday, where everyone gets kicked out of the game when it freezes up.
Wow.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yes,
had
it's not a
only-
lot. It's very rare, but we've had quite a few in the last couple of days where you get, I think, an invalid battle message.
Yeah, I never had this one.
Any specific
User was
PvE
moved
maps,
to
or
your
literally
channel.
just most
User
PvE
was
maps
moved
you
to
ever
your
get on
channel.
just
User was
disconnect?
moved to your channel.
It would be a random PvP, whether it's skirmish or full games.
Okay. Kat, you had a question?
Many questions. I actually made a list of grievances that is longer than my arm.
Oh god.
I would actually prefer giving them you in written form, because if I would actually voice that out, it would still be here on Christmas.
Well, give us a few most pressing issues on the
Well, if you
Reddit.
want a breakdown, bot spotting, battle hardened cost, bot pen buff, reload buff, achievement rewards, PvE retrofits, artillery smoke, ghost shells, the Panzerhaubitze versus PLZ problem, low spec system optimization, critical hits, commander rank lock, PvE mission selection. Yeah, that's the most
Basically.
important stuff.
I don't see an issue with the Panzerhaubitze versus PLZ. But then I'm a power hungry.
You have
damage
that
whore.
thing.
Yeah, that's because I'm a power
I'm
hungry
just
damage
wondering.
whore.
I'm just wondering, can we have the North Korean mobile artillery unit? You know, the one with the 210mm.
I think that's taking us off subject.
That would be
I
far
know. I
too
just thought I'd just, you know,
But
just
just like I don't see why anyone should pick the Panzerhaubitze when you could have the PLZ. It has nothing that the PLZ couldn't do.
So artillery power creep then,
Super power creep.
as
And it's only
amusing
for
as-
PvE, so who cares about balance?
The bots.
Yeah.
I don't think they have feelings.
They do, they just hide it well.
I'm going to start a social justice rights campaign for the bots. Bots have feelings too.
Give them, then just give them their safe space somewhere.
The perma bubble.
Yeah.
I actually think Artie should be back into PvP.
I do as well.
same
The-
here.
Because the removal, you know, actually, yeah, people now camp a lot more.
Well, that's what I was just aware to say. You know, taking it out of the game, out of PvP, just turned it into a camp fest.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole
The
idea.
idea is to keep
completely
moving.
disagree with
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
There's no camping in PvP. The game is fast enough. Every tank is fast. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see any camping in the PvP right now.
Apart from the German MBT, because that's just a pile of shit.
Yeah, well, when we can get global operations battles on North American server, yes, there is a lot of camping on that.
Well, you call it camping. I don't call it camping. That's positioning, and that's a big part of a tactical shooter game. You can't just call it camping. Camping is different.
I know,
That's
but
what
you
we
should...
have on a slow game like World of Tank. We don't have that much camping in this game because it's fast.
Mm.
Could have fooled me last time I checked, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, I
but
guess
other
people
than
have
that, I
different
think,
definitions for tactical waiting.
true. I think that's true.
But I would say that the removal of illumination and smoke shells does make the game less interesting.
Yeah.
And I would like that back at least, even if it's only for PvE.
Mm.
Let's keep our team PvE only for now, shall we?
Yeah, but at least make it more interesting than just
Yeah, I'm all
having to
all
deal with
for that.
retarded map design. I'm sorry.
I mean, give it more alpha, give it more pen, give it something that is gonna be remotely useful in PvE, because right now I see artillery as having a handicap on my team.
The other thing is the
Pretty much.
artillery. I haven't played since the last patch, but I'm not sure. But the artillery, you know, the other tanks come loaded, but artillery has to load. I'm not sure if they've fixed that. I haven't played it since the last patch.
Ah, that's still there.
Right. Yeah. So, which is a bit unfair.
Yeah, it was a safety measure that you can't start firing at the spawn point in PvP, I think. So it has no meaning in PvE.
Okay.
But yeah, I think for the arty, yeah, support rounds would be good to be returned.
Agreed.
Does make sense
That's a
when
good
you
idea.
have, say, a MBT and just an arty left in PvE, and you can only get up to the cap circle when it's in cover, and the moment you get there, they all die. So illumination rounds probably does make sense in that circumstance.
Mm.
So
You know,
other
what
end-
would make some sense too if you're trying to protect your APC last remaining friendly team member.
to the sorry guys, is there any meta vehicle that suddenly sprung up and will be used next by anyone who wants to get a 70% win rate?
VBL?
With
Apart from the
these
VBL.
No, basically anything with Sorry, when Sorry's using the vehicle, it's basically a 70+ win rate.
Well, there
There
are some
definitely are
vehicles,
tanks.
but anything with really good camo and missiles is really, really strong right now.
Especially with the combination of Aaron.
Yeah,
I know some people may hate me for saying this, but I do feel that tandem warheads, you know the way the see it like on the T-15 and the things. I honestly, I know this is gonna sound stupid, but I honestly think that they should have the higher pen, but they should do less damage.
Would be a bit realistic because you have the precursor charge and then the main charge going off. Yeah.
But
could be,
there's
but-
also the other issue that I have with tandem warheads as well. Sometimes the armor for main battle tanks would minimize the amount of damage from a tandem warhead entering the tank. Like
Agreed. Yes. Some explosive reactive armor is especially designed to defeat against tandem warheads. Yeah.
One I kind of just want to see is just some type of balancing towards them, because at the moment, even a Challenger 2, right, will get penetrated if it's hold down for some odd reason. I've noticed the Challenger 2 at the Tier 9 one, even with the so-called Spitfire kit, being penetrated by a tandem warhead through the right cheek. I don't know if that's either a bug or just, you know, someone probably had a very good shot on the, you know, the third ring.
I think the Charlie line needs a bit more work and love than it recently received. It does feel very mediocre,
Yeah,
very slow,
It's
especially
more
in
than
skirmishes.
just HP.
Yeah, it's skirmishes, you can't take a Charlie in because you'll just get eaten up by everything else. You're too slow to get to the match. Once you get there, your turret traverse is horrendous. Your pen is subpar. Your gun handling is pretty bad as well. So awesome HP, but if you can't use it, it's useless.
Mm.
So basically, what you're saying is they're pretty much nothing but sponges.
Yeah,
I'm
and they're
pretty
not
much
really
saying
that
as
good
well.
sponge.
I'm
Yeah,
an
User was moved to your
MBT
channel.
main on both PvP and PvE, and the challengers are just god awful if you don't know if you get surrounded.
I can only speak at PvE at the moment, but yeah, you have to. You have no flexibility. You have to design a plan, stick to it, and if there's something coming up, you can't react because you're too slow. If you get surrounded, you can't really, because you have a very slow traverse. You can't really act, and if the battle moves to another part of the battlefield, like in the fourth part of Special Ops, where there's always the squads you have to protect on different parts of the map, you have to
User
be there
was moved to
before
your
it
channel.
spawns, because you'll never get there. Either your teammates are there first, or the enemies destroy the friendly tanks. So yeah, it's very inflexible. It's not fun.
I'm just gonna add this on with the whole idea of the Challenger 2's turn traverse. In real life, I think the Challenger 2 has it can spin a full 360 degrees 1 second faster than a Leopard 2.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
And I'm here like, so is it okay for a tank that has that in real life to have 24, 26 degrees of turn traverse in the game? So I'm here like, why do I even bother playing this in PvE or PvP anymore?
Yeah, the Challenger being nerfed into the ground is basically what was the straw that got me to take a hiatus from the game.
Yeah, then there's a long reload which makes you curse every shot you miss, or you get eaten by armor.
Yeah.
That's just... of course, it's okay, it's fun. You can stand at the middle and everything's shooting at you. Because of the turret ring not being able to be hit from the front with missiles, you're practically invincible. But then again, that gets old really, really fast, especially if you can see you have no influence on the game other than being a bullet sponge.
Yeah, and that only applies to PvE.
Yeah,
in any
that's
other
right,
mode,
PvE,
it's
yeah.
useless.
Yes, yes.
Like, PvE may not offer you a whole range of situations in which the Challenger is not useful, but in PvP or Glops, you see everything wrong with the Challenger. Like, compared to another MBT that uses a positional advantage due to mobility to have actually a chance to balance shots by being hold down, being on the move, always flank, and so on, the Challenger has nothing of the sort. It's got no agility because of turret traverse and hull traverse, it's got no top speed, it's got no acceleration, and despite it having the shell damage buffed a few patches ago, it's still got horrible DPM, and it doesn't even have another option other than AP. So that works, that is. So anything with DPM and burst damage can just drive up to it, track it, and murder it.
User was moved
You can
to your
do
channel.
nothing of that sort with any other MBT because they have heat or, you know, agility to keep up with anything that's not an MBT. The Challenger 2 doesn't. It's an HP pinata, and the further the game goes into the chess, and the more I think developers have started to think that as long as they buff the HP, the tank is gonna be useful. No, it isn't. It's not gonna have any meaningful effect in a game where it's all about moving and dealing damage, because every single patch the Challenger moves slower and does even less damage. It's a problem.
It's
like,
just
they haven't understood.
The ATBU had at least some usefulness when Pish was overpowered as all fuck, but you know, they took that away. And
Yeah,
Well,
speaking
now
of
you have the
Pish,
best
I would
AP
love to
damage
see
in the
the
game, that's
effects
it.
of Pish entering the tank back again. At
Hello,
the moment,
Frank.
it acts like a watered-down heat round.
I think that balancing a tank around a single shell is not a good idea, because you may make that tank playable, but you make that tier living hell for everything else. Like, just look at the Wilk when he used to have Pele applied to it.
What do you mean?
How did that turn out? Like, have you ever tried playing Glops when that thing used to be especially balanced. Like, it was only a third of the team was Wilk, and as soon as you went out and tried to cap, you get murdered. And it was the same in PvP. You had a shell that no matter where it hit the tank, it did damage. And when it penetrated, because you had the accuracy to aim at weak spots, you pretty much made a tank unusable in 2 or 3 shots. That made the tank good, but it didn't make the metagame as a whole good. It just negated every other tank's ability to do something just to be useful, and that is not a good gameplay feature.
I know one thing though. I know one thing though. We need a Challenger 2 ADTU needs a massive gun handling buff. That thing is absolute garbage for long range shooting. You have to pull it.
Yeah. And you have to stop in order to hit anything with a Challenger. Like, if you drive the ATDU after you drive the Etsimone 3, you'll notice that the 140 the ATDU has pretty much requires the tank to hit anything on the move with accuracy. And if you do that, stop in the middle of the field, you get shot, and your supposedly advantages HP pool doesn't matter anymore. Like, the whole concept of buffing the HP and nerfing something else only makes the tank worse. It needs actually better armor, because when compared to any other MBT at the same tier, it doesn't have anything that can make it useful compared to anything else. Like, it's got the same weak spot as the Black Eagle when he turns the turret, because it's got the ammo in the back, you can load pan. It's got the same lower plate weak spot as every other tier 10. It has the worst mobility, it can still be murdered by missiles, it just needs to be tracked like every other tier 10 MBT, and it doesn't even have the massive alpha damage the Etsimone 3 has with heat, or the DPM a T-14 Armada or a Type 99 or a Black Eagle has. It's got nothing. It's only there to be annoying sometimes, and that doesn't make it a good tank.
It's only there to be a roadblock. That's all it is.
Like, if it had armor to at least try to compensate for the lackluster gun handling, mobility, and overall reliability, it would be decent. Like, if it didn't have that huge lower plate weak spot that shouldn't be there in the first place, because it already has a frontal weak spot, which is the driver port, it would be usable. But now, every single tank slightly better than average penetration at tier 10 and at tier 9 can just go through the lower plate like it was a T-14 Armada, with the only difference that T-14 Armada can go hold down and can aim whatever he wants because it's got an unmanned turret, and it does 30% more damage per minute. This is without counting heat. Yeah, it's got no purpose.
I'm going to limit you to 20 words or less next time.
Okay,
So
sorry.
I would like to welcome Gunny, who is a North American moderator, and SilentStalker.
Welcome both.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to our shitfest of debating on what the Challenger 2 should be.
That's only one vehicle, though.
Technically 2.
We've probably got too many vehicles.
Yeah, we started talking about him first. If we wait, he'll never be here.
The spun off from the missiles.
I don't know who was just speaking a minute ago with regards to the Charlie 2 ADTU, but I have to completely disagree with the ability to aim while on the move. Whether it's just me, I don't know, but I've never had a problem. Never had a problem whatsoever with regards to hitting targets, even at range while on the move.
Okay, so the next person who starts talking about the Challenger again is going to get a nuke dropped on them. So when it comes to low tier balancing, this is a subject that has been repeated a lot and is actually a problem in both World of Tanks and War Thunder as well, is that the armor of the supposed heavy tanks are often non-existent. And I'm sure many of us have played the Leopard 1 with heat shells, and well, you know how that goes.
Or my favourite one, using the Chieftain against Leopard 2s with the Hesh round and going straight through the front, killing everything in front of it.
The T64s are basically dominant, but the chieftains are there. If you know how to use a chieftain, as I'm sure many of us have, dumping Hess shells into turret rings is always a way to get your rocks off. Does anyone have any feedback or relations to anything that is under tier 5 and is not to do with Russian MBTs or chieftains, or the Leopard 1?
Well, I would like to see more low tier tanks, especially on tier 1 and 2, cause there are only 3 or 4 vehicles in the game anyway. And sure, you play through it in 3, 4 or 5 matches, but it would be nice to see more vehicle variety at the low tier.
Yeah, but honestly speaking, giving more vehicles in low tiers is just throwing away your resources. Like you said, you play 5 matches and you're done with them. Like,
I would also like to see to play a tier 2 or tier 3 tank for 10 matches or so until you have unlocked the next tank. In my opinion, it was the wrong way to reduce the reputation required to unlock a tier 3 tank. Because, like I said, these are grind-through tanks only, and you see very little people playing them. Just because of that, you play them for some matches and you go ahead in the tech tree. So put more variety down in the lower tiers, would focus more players to or encourage more players to play at the low tiers.
yeah, but that only works until these players have mastered every tier 3 tank. It doesn't actually solve anything.
It
No
makes
matter
the tier
how-
playable.
Guys,
Yeah, for how long?
can I have a few words before you continue on this topic? Because there are some changes coming that you might not want to know about, and so you don't waste your time discussing stuff that's already been scheduled for changes anyway.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
So basically, what you're telling this about low tiers is true. There's definitely a problem with players simply not playing them, and then you have dead low tiers, and of course when new players come in they see it and so on and so forth. Obviously, I mean, I don't have to explain how World of Tanks solves it, which is obviously not an ideal situation for armored warfare, because we don't have this sort of deficit economy, nor is the grind that long. But so basically, we're going to be how to say it without spoiling anything. We will overhaul the progression system to a degree. I can't probably tell you yet how exactly, because that would be like I would get my ass kicked. But there will be a way of making tanks, low tier tanks, upgradable to the point of being useful in higher tier battles. So that will give them some longevity, let's say. And the second thing that was also tied to the fact where you guys discussing about armor and so forth. We're looking at overhauling the armor system as a whole, moving away from the, let's say, World of Tanks system.
Does that apply on the Leopard series too? Because I feel they don't have any armor.
Just a
Well,
second,
that applies to every tank. Like,
I'm glad we can agree on that.
let's hear him out.
no, I mean, I don't think I can tell you the details, but there are basically 3 ways that this can be done in. The first way is basically the War Thunder system, where the armor is modeled physically, like not just a plane with 2-dimensional plane with certain attributes to it, but really a physical 3-dimensional plate, which on one hand it has its advantages, it has its serious drawbacks. The biggest drawback is that this produces really strange results in some cases. You've probably seen the funny War Thunder videos where really strange things happen, like one shots and so on. Yeah, this is one way to do it. The second way to do it is it's sort of hard to explain, but I think I would have to write it down. So it's actually a really complicated system, but it's sort of like a hybrid between the existing system and a new one, where you don't work with exact plate thicknesses, because that's basically an unrealistic mechanism. Real life armor on modern tanks doesn't work that way. So instead you work with protection levels against certain kinds of shells and calibers. So let's say a certain tank has a 35 degree protection frontal against, I don't know, 100 millimeter shells. This is just an example, so don't take me up on it. So this is there's actually the concept behind it is really complicated, and I'm not sure if it would improve things, but it's one way that was proposed. And the third way is convert armor to damage reduction. So instead of having a 0/1 penetrate or didn't penetrate, then armor would instead, let's say, reduce the incoming damage by 80%. If in some cases, this is obviously just another example, but it's something that we've been discussing. We'll have some sort of mechanical solution in the future. This is not happening in like next 2 updates or 3 updates probably, but so it's a really complex thing. But I just wanted to let you know, guys, that we are aware of these issues. We are aware of the balance issues, and we're working on it.
So this new armor system, what's the meta behind this? It should represent reality more. Then we have a problem because reality isn't balanced. If you're in a light vehicle against an NBT, you're going to lose. That's not good in a game, but that's reality.
Obviously, no. It's not about realism at all costs, and I think we all know that's basically a fake.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't exist. Even World of Tanks or even Wargaming stopped saying that or talking about realism, because actually I think War Thunder still argues about realism, but I think it's futile because that's never going to happen.
Yeah, there's only so far you can go with realism in a game.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, if you want realism, you should probably play Steel Beasts, but no, it's gameplay oriented. The goals, at least.
Regarding realism.
Sorry?
User joined your channel.
Regarding realism, one thing that should be part of.
Personally, I think Armored Warfare shouldn't strive for realism.
No. But what I'm saying, what I want to get at is the physical attributes of the size, the weight, how fast it turns, how fast it drives, those kind of things should be as close to as nerfing, turret traverse or nerfing hull traverse. All those kind of things probably should be as close as real. What can be arcadey would be, firing and penetrating and those kind of things. At least make the vehicle moving around the battlefield as close to what a real vehicle would be, rather than just artificially nerfing
from your channel.
turret traverse.
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, in the sense of obviously realism in this is cool or sounds cool, and if you do it right, then you have a like a heavy feeling thing, and that's actually we're going to work on the motion system. So yes. On the other hand, real life tanks are slower. They're much slower than in Armored Warfare. They don't accelerate nowhere near as fast. And basically, you might remember the time around Balance 2.0 when the MBT acceleration was basically nerfed across the board, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, World of Tanks! Why do MBTs behave like World War II tanks and so on?" So
Yeah,
this
but
kind of bullshit is
then you've
also
got
a
light
consideration.
tanks. Then you've got light tanks who are maneuverable. You know, so you've got roles for different.
Light tanks.
Yes, I mean obviously
You know?
this
So
sounds
it's
sounds
not
great
all
on
about
paper.
main battle tanks. It's not all about main battle.
No, I mean, if you whether you want it or not, the whole game needs main battle tank is basically the baseline, because everybody likes them. Main battle tanks are cool. They are universal. They don't require, let's say, special gameplay, apart from very special, let's say, subtypes like the Challenger that are supposed to be basically just like steel wall that's there and so on. But universal main battle tanks, they're the baseline for the game, and all this other stuff is sort of, or the class roles are sort of balanced around them, like light tanks are faster than main battle tanks and so on. So yes, you have to have something that feels right first. That's the MBT class, and you can do the rest based on that.
I have a question about light tanks, especially considering that they should be more mobile than MBTs, and in some tiers, especially from tiers 7 through 9, it's not the case. There are some examples, like the Stingray 2, which not only have a worse top speed than some MBTs which are able to reach it, but also have worse acceleration and worse turbo traverse. The easy example would be comparing a Stingray 2 to a TADU. The latter actually has better turbo traverse, better top speed, and after it gets over like 30, even better acceleration. Like the Stingray needs filter systems to even get to the top speed. The TADU, thanks to the turbine, actually manages to go up to 80 by itself without putting a filter system on. Are you planning to maybe overhaul how certain light tanks work, like the Stingray or the newly introduced Ascot? They are basically carrying better gun systems than TDs. They have overwhelming firepower, but they pay the price of having horrible mobility. Are you planning to revise them a bit and trim down like a shell off the Stingray's radar rack to not be overpowering a Centaur 105, which has the same system, and in return give it more mobility to actually reflect its role? Or do you think they're fine in their being pretty much MBTs with less armor but better guns than TDs?
Yes, I mean, it's not just about this sort of rebalancing, but will be, can I tell it to you? Yes, okay. So basically we'll be introducing, we'll be taking a look, let's say, at new active abilities. Will be, let's say, to maximize the performance, will be adding some stuff to light tanks that will, for good players who will be able to use it, they will find that like light tanks will become more customizable, and they will be more, let's say, aggressive. So yeah, we are planning stuff, yes.
Yeah, because I've noticed that the latest light tank we got in the game, the K21, when compared to the other light tanks, has one really interesting feature. It's the one of the first light tank that got the engine boost back, the ECU overdrive. And
yeah,
I was
that's
thinking,
coming back.
Yeah, are we getting the chance of switching maybe the active ability of a tank? Like, for example, in my PLO1, I want to play more dynamically, and so I am gonna switch to designate target for the engine boost, for example. Is that gonna be a possibility?
Yes.
Yay!
He's happy now for once in his life.
Yeah. I am actually going to, you know, get to a TDU before he runs away to his teammates. That's gonna be amazing for me. I'm sorry.
Troublemaker.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I would like to raise a point about matchmaking, especially team sizes on certain maps. With the introduction of low-tier globs and some changes to the matchmaking, there were 8 versus 8 and 5 versus 5 globs matches introduced. I think it's a good thing, but it should be adjusted to the maps. I played 5 versus 5 globs on the Panama map, the waterway map, and that's just
the AC-30,
pointless. Right? On the other hand, there are 15 versus 15 players on Ghost Field or Roughneck, both really small maps, and just too much players on this small space to find a spot for your light tanks or your armored fighting vehicles to be effective, to flank, to spot, to hide. So I would like to see smaller team sizes on the small maps and 15 versus 15 on the big new maps.
It's a semi-PvP.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you can play Chemical Plant just fine. Oh, sorry. Like, you can have low tiers playing Chemical Plant, which is one of the smallest map. You can find it in PvP roster and it works fine. But as soon as you get to like tier 7, playing Chemical Plant basically means that you, as a non-MBT, are almost useless. And that's the thing. Not only tiers, not only the team sizes are really limited by some maps or overly advantaged. Like playing a big map on an AFV can give you so many advantages over anything else. Like, I still remember playing ranked, and we got Platernica, and due to everybody, you know, realizing that if you don't have a VBL or anything with mobility in a map like that, and those happen a lot, everybody was driving a VBL. It was 3 VBLs per side, 2064, and then a big old Panzer or a Sheridan. Like, the map density, the more space you give to a vehicle, and the more advantaged an AV will be, and it breaks the meta completely, because in that case you'll be buffing a vehicle based on stats that disadvantage it, but in reality you only need to increase the player density or reduce it to see that the vehicle is fine. And you should be nerfing something else instead. But yeah, you need to like divide both globs and PvP maps into like team size rosters instead of putting them all into the same block and have it rotate, because it can give very different results and it makes everything confusing.
It shouldn't be that complicated. Let's say there are less players in queue and the matchmaker decides to put tier 7 game together with 8 people or 8 players on each team, so matchmaker picks a small map for this team and not the biggest one in the game. Just let the matchmaker decide to let him put smaller maps for smaller teams and bigger maps for the huge 15 versus 15 teams, and also make a difference in tiers, because it's fine to play on Ghost Field with 15 players on each side if it's tier 5, but not if it's tier 10.
Exactly, that's pretty much what I was saying. It's like, it can make for a much better experience. Knowing that you get a full match in a map that is able to accommodate 15 players, then is not making your tank that relies on flanking useless because every single square meter is filled by a Russian MBT. That could be a problem.
Yeah, but not even put a full team on a small map, even there are, let's say, 200 players in queue. Just make more new games.
Oh, I have a question regarding camo and the overall like skill and retrofit balancing around it. Like
User joined your channel.
after fiddling around with all the camo and vision range commanders, I've just made some little math, and the thing is that the raw camouflage you can get out of retrofits or just class bonuses makes pretty much all the vision range and spotting capability retrofits almost useless when trying to counter it. Like, for example, the best commander you can use right now on anything but an MBT is Erin O'Connell, and that's simply because she gives you around 17% more camouflage by either boosting camouflage all the time, boosting it where you're not near your allies, or just boosting the camo gain you get from foliage. And she is so powerful because every other commander giving you view range simply does not give enough. It simply gets overpowered. And by having retrofits giving view range a bit more of that, and maybe even like making the view range percentage based, making the gain from retrofits based on percentage, and therefore giving a higher view range to an AFV, making it able to spot the other EFVs better, would actually start fixing the problem. But I don't think that's enough, because even though you overhauled and you improved on the camouflage system, on the vision system, the like camo loss from firing on certain classes is so small that when combined with Aaron, it makes some vehicles like a VBL or a Weasel or I don't know, a Sphinx pretty much undetectable by an MBT or anything that doesn't have the top of the line camo or view range to get close and not get shot at. And if you maybe increased the camo loss upon firing on vehicles that usually are much prone to scouting and actually providing other kinds of support other than damage, that could actually make them less overpowering overall. Sorry for the word limit.
That wasn't really a question, was it?
No, but are you planning to maybe buff the veteran skills or make them more countering the camo stacking we're having right now? Like, do you recognize the issue of overwhelming camouflage, making some classes like the VBLs or the Weasels or the Crabs or the VBRs completely overperforming and out of control?
Can I just add something on to what Ark was saying about the VBLs and the thing? To be honest, out of my own personal opinion, I think the camo loss for firing an ATGM needs to be treated the same as a camo loss for firing a cannon. It's like you can get spanned by 4 ATGMs in a space of say like 6 seconds or something like that, and still have no clue where the guy is, and you be inside the view range.
That's the thing, they have too little camo loss compared to how much camo you can get from Aaron, meaning that they will never be spotted by anything but another VBL. Like, they either need less camo themselves or they need to lose more camo while doing damage, because allowing them to do the same thing at the same time without any consequence is what's making them broken.
Losing camouflage when firing is one thing, that is not a balance, everybody know that, but currently the view range is not countering the camouflage. You can level up camouflage so high, you can only spot the tank like proxy spotting or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We tried it even. We went into a custom match, and even tanks like a Typhoon or a tank destroyer, if you have Aaron and a retrofit giving you camo while stationary and you go inside a bush, you can have as much view range as you want, but that thing has nearly 100% camouflage, meaning you will only be spotted when you get closer than 55 meters or something.
Yeah, because you can level up your camo way too high.
Like, if you hard cap the maximum camouflage to like 85-90% instead of the complete 100%, that would actually make them a bit less broken as well.
But that sounds like something that could be tweaked on a test server. It sounds like some tweaking of the numbers.
Yeah, Caden, I basically live to hear Ark pronounce things. It's great.
I know we've already spoken about matchmaking and queue sizes. Just one additional question from me is, we've seen an upturn in PvP population over the last couple of days, say week or two since the patch. Something that we have been noticing is we're getting consistently more 7v7, 8v8s, larger games on non-skirmish maps. We've also been noticing that even though there's 70 people in one queue, just for, like, say for example tier 7s, you still get 3v3s. Now my question is, with that system still activated during periods of high population, it brings down the quality of your games that you have, because you might not necessarily have multiple 7v7s going, but you might have 10 3v3s going, which can actually redirect the population into the larger games. So my question basically is there a way, or if not, maybe to address the size of teams during different hours? And I know that's obviously coding, but it would be nice to have the, well, not to have the option, but not having the smaller games in high population times where you have proper matches.
So kind of like a prime time adjustment to the matchmaking.
Yeah, almost something like that.
Yeah, for example, last night I just wanted to check the queue, and I got a 3 versus 3 insta game versus your platoons, Spitfire, Arc, and Cosmic KageNeko.
I'm sorry, I am so sorry for that.
I just hit the button and went to insta 3 versus 3. That's not right, because there were player in the queue.
Whereas the, like, you have to wait X amount of seconds before a skirmish engine triggers. Wasn't it supposed to, like, apply on every single player and not on just one? That brings the other players into a skirmish?
Frank, you around?
Oh, that's why he was so silent.
I think he may be AFK. Cage, do you know anything?
Hello?
Oh, he's here!
Hold on, before Frank speaks, not to cut off anyone, we did want to speak more on the issue of taking the game. I was worried with myself and Frank being here, we may begin searching for answers as opposed to discussing issues that are plaguing us. Please continue if Frank's willing to answer. I'm just want to voice that before we get into that line of thought. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, with that being said, the answer is pretty simple. I don't know. This is vertical stuff. I would have to ask the matchmaking designer, and that's not going to happen like immediately.
Can I bring up?
Go for it.
Yeah. It's probably the rewards for match. When you see the results at the end of the, obviously done more effort. Say some of the higher tiers, they're the ones.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting off here.
Yeah, it's because I can't do anything about that. I'm too far away.
Okay, yeah, that's better now. So maybe try to speak a bit louder so the mic doesn't cut out.
Okay, so basically, from what I remember, Balance 2.0 was supposed to bring the tiers a lot closer together in performance, so it really didn't make too much difference if rate versus a tier 10. But it does make a huge difference in the rewards. Like, you actually have to do exceptionally well in a tier 8, do as well as a tier 10 because of the tier multiplier that they've got, Whereas in the past, you used to have a battle tier multiplier. Basically, the kind of opposition you were facing determined how much rewards you used. Now it's based on the tank that you are playing, and what it ends up with is a poorly played higher tier ends up getting more rewards than a well played lower tier. So especially when it's happening on the North American server, where we have low population and therefore a huge scale of variation between tiers, it's quite noticeable that at the end of a match you go, oh, is that all I got for that, considering how hard I had to play? And it causes a bit of negative feeling for that player. They go, And so, although it's related to population, if we didn't have a population problem on the North American server, you know, you'd all be playing the same tiers, but it doesn't help to grow the population if you're not rewarded for playing well in a low tier tank. See my point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this problem too.
I'm gonna agree as well.
Yeah, I agree too.
And you know, you started off with you know, battle tier, then you only got +2 of your tank, and then you got +1, and now you're getting just the tier you're in. And one of the reasons it came out was because platoons were exploiting it. You know? So helping people get more reward by, you know, putting and I think that's a bit of a weak excuse, because you know there's quite a lot of solo players as well, and just ends up causing a bit of negativity, and people will just go, oh, I don't want to play this anymore. And there's a lot of people who just drop out. They won't give that feedback to only probably 1% of people who actually posted on forums. But for every one person who posts on the forum, there's probably hundreds who say, I'm leaving.
Yeah, I concur with that. I think the changes to the reward system over the time feel a little bit random, and you actually look at them and you notice that they don't seem to get better for you. You only notice a lot of low or strange rewards that you get, where you have got more spotting, more damage, but the same points. It's
exactly.
Yeah, it's you don't feel like you're getting rewarded for what you've done, but it's a bit random. Also very much depending on maps in PvE, where some maps give very, very good rewards, and other maps you're asking yourself, why did I just play 15 minutes for like under 60,000 reward? It's it would be nice to have a more consistent consistent representation of your actions of the games you've played in the rewards.
Yeah, I think that's an issue in pretty much every mode. Like having a result of your work apply consistently, depending on the situation. If you do everything correctly, and it doesn't exist only in PvE; it's in GLOPS and PvP as well. You get a map that on average allowing you to perform your role, but in pretty much everything there's always a multiplier map formation that makes you unable to do everything on average. You either are a god in that map on that tank with those tiers, or you just don't do anything and are completely carried by another tank that can do things better than you in that map, just because he's that tank. But yeah, like the PvE reputation system was always very weird to me. I remember like playing, I don't know, there was that campaign episode in which you had to play PvE medium, and there were a lot of times where instead of rewarding lower tiers that did as much, if not more, damage than higher tiers, the game just slapped them across the face and told them that just because of a tier multiplier, their reward in the end was
User
lower
joined your
than a
channel.
top tier. For no reason.
Exactly.
Like, that gives you no reward. That doesn't make you feel like you want to play more. That makes you question if it was worth playing that mission. And that's something that should be fixed, to me.
Yeah.
You need
And
to be
maybe the
rewarded for
problem
the
is
effort and the
even
challenge
bigger.
you are facing.
Maybe the problem is even bigger. The whole economy system of the game is broken, I think. It's either too much reward or too much,
I agree.
you know. It's completely broken, I think.
No, this is actually a serious problem that I've been pointing out internally for some
User
time
disconnected from your
now.
channel.
We've had let's say major issues with reward creep. I mean, the feedback for I'm not talking right now about all the broken events. That's another matter entirely. But the even feedback for like really good bonuses is pretty negative, and that's not great. That's one thing. Part of the reason is the increase in expectations. I mean, it's much harder to like wow players. You know, like. Personally, I was really disappointed by the initial whine about HDS, because okay, maybe it sucked, but it was still a premium, and you know, if you guys said like there's a problem with it just normally, then we would have just passed it on. And for example, I personally talked to the lead developer to convince him to get rid of that massive minimum range for the missiles. But okay, the result is that the HDS is pretty OP now. But whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a limited vehicle.
User left
But
your channel.
what I mean is this also concerns stacking, reward stacking, boosters, second boosters. You know, the progression of in armored warfare is insanely high. It's insanely fast. It's much faster than it was actually originally intended. I mean, we have even new players like who don't pay for anything, who just participate in the events, and they got like a tier 10 within a month. So I agree. The progression is really fast. The rewards are too high, and we'll be taking steps. And by that I don't mean necessarily nerfing, but we'll be taking steps to address it. One of the things that's coming up in 0.25, for example, is PvE reward overhaul. So, for example, we'll be getting rid of what's the word? I always
Logistics.
Tier multiplier.
No. The costs, the logistics costs. Yeah, that's
yes. Finally, we've been asking for this for.
Wait, for PvE
years
or
now.
PvP?
PvP doesn't have them.
Oh god, Jesus! Like earlier on today, I had a match where I only got 60k out of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Or-
but so the rewards are going to be more, let's say, performance centered. I'm gonna check if there's something going on with the tier multiplier. But yeah, we would like to introduce a more fair system, or at least not so obviously unfair as to players complain about they performing well in a lower tier vehicle and getting lower rewards. It looks strange.
Yeah,
Really-
exactly. The
really
tier
also-
multiplier almost needs to go. And you're rewarded for, say, a tier 8 hits a tier 10, you're going to get more reward than a tier 8 hitting a tier 6. That's do the rewards that way if you wanted to, as opposed to actually putting an artificial tier multiplier.
Will you also
Base
look
it
at the
on your
base
performance.
rewards of the maps? Because that's another thing that I can remember doing like the old Snakebite, which was one of the hardest maps in PvX, and you had to really fight for this map, but it had next to no reward compared to some of the new maps at the time, who just were like a cakewalk and had like 10 times the reward at least.
Yeah, but these really badly performing maps, I think they were already rebalanced.
Okay.
While we got the discussion on PvE, one of the things that was brought in and then removed was the spawning of AI. There was a patch where the AI would not spawn within the view range of a player tank. Now they spawn almost on top of you again. Right? It's
User was moved to your channel.
a bit unrealistic.
Yep, almost had a tank spawn inside of me once.
Was it the standard PvE or was it the special operation?
Yeah, it's even in big special operations as well. They spawn within meters of you.
Spec Ops have different rules, but
even in standard PvE, it does the same thing.
I had one of those beautiful moments in the like second special ops mission in which like enemy PL1 spawn to shoot at the Zuber, and I was waiting for them in my like T15 I think, and the PL1 literally spawned inside me and we died.
Oh god.
Wow.
Nice.
Armored Warfare Porn Edition.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of PvE, you know that in the last patch they introduced the matchmaking that will ensure the a team will have like main battle tanks on it.
Yeah,
a tier 33. I think that has to be removed. That thing is making PvE match.
It already has. I think there were some changes. Like instead of picking an MBT in one of the like the most recent patch, I think the game takes a guy and like S33 armor or something. Please, somebody read the patch.
That's correct. Yeah, it's tier times 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got 330mm front armor at tier 10. What's that going to do? Yeah. What's the deal in this? That's not going to protect anything. There are 1,250 millimeter heat missiles flying around.
This wasn't really introduced to like force high armor. This is basically a cosmetic change, or more like a bug fix, because the old system with the two brawlers internally it used rules that allowed for some really strange things to happen, where for example, for some reason the AMX-10, the premium, counted as a brawler. So obviously teams spawning with just tank destroyers weren't really great, and so on.
So that's more like a badly written patch now then.
No, I mean it did what, or it does what the patch note says it does. The rules changed to account the armor thickness times 33, and basically what this does is the 33 is not just a random number. What it does is it basically ensures that the teams have main battle tanks.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a
actually, yeah, I was just mainly asking for an explanation on that. To be honest, I have run into players who have played the the entire Spec Ops in light tanks or the PvE, and they have like full light tank squads.
So that's a question.
I'll be staying quiet for a bit. I'm trying to find a good one.
I think. Do you think that the changes to the ATGM behavior in PvE have the desired effect now? Because I don't think they do. I think the PvE, the ATGM turretling spam is as bad as ever.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The fact that the ATGMs always seem to go directly to the weak spots, despite the vehicle going at 100 kilometers an hour, firing at a tank that's probably going almost as fast, and it still manages to get into a weak spot. I think there needs to be some RNG
because
based on the speed of the firing vehicle and the vehicle it's trying to hit.
Or my favorite run out of that is when you're hold down and the HGM still goes into your third ring.
Yeah, at the moment I think like in PvE, if you want armor, that's the meta is like 80% of the meta is do I have a tank where the turret can be hit from a normal frontal position?
Yeah.
Because that's everything. Okay, you will have to have an MBT because otherwise you get eaten by autocannons or something. But in the MBT lineup, the only question is can the turret be hit? So that's the VT4, the new Chinese one, which can't be hit. That's the challenges where the turret can't be hit. There's some that are 50-50, like the Tier 9 Leo, like the Tier 8 Leo, the Evolution. But that are the main battle tanks that are viable, because everything else, your turret tanks
can I
get
just
hit.
say something here about that with the Challengers? The Challenger 1 and Challenger 2, except for the ADTU, the third ring can be penetrated.
Okay. Yeah.
I have had that happen to me a lot of times with the ATGMs.
Yeah, that was just my list.
Yeah, but the fact that the ATGM shoot directly into turret ring and they that needs to, because it actually negates the purpose of actually having armor. Different types of armor, composite armor.
Yep.
All the other things. If the shells from the AI is always going to be going into turret rings and stuff like that, why have armor? Yeah.
Can I add a few things to that?
Yeah.
So basically, there's 4 elements to this, or four parts. First part is that, or that was actually your question. Yes, the hotfix helped. The amount of damage done by ATG MEMS was objectively reduced by, I don't know, 30 to 50%. The second part is this was just basically a hotfix, so we are still working on an overhaul or global overhaul of AI behavior. That includes the missiles. Yes. The third part was that some tanks had or have, I think this was the case for Abrams, but I'm not sure, bugged turret rings that were too easily destroyed. But the fourth part is also important, because we don't want the AI opponents to not target like certain areas. Like it's intentional that they are dangerous, you know. Like it's intentional that they do a lot of damage. They're not supposed to be fair, like in the sense of player fair. They're not artificial.
Yeah, but that
they're bots.
negates the balancing of tanks, because you have a tank that is lighter armored than another tank, with the only difference being that the AI can't hit a weak point. Then
yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's a problem in balancing.
No. This you're absolutely right. This is true. I mean, it's obvious. It sucks that the bots target the turret rings the way they do, and this is going to be fixed. What I mean is that even after the fixes, the bots will still get in some nasty shots.
I totally agree with that.
Just lucky.
It's okay. That's not the problem. The problem is like that you would like to play some tanks, but you're actually hampering yourself if you play a certain tank, because a weak spot can be hit. You're not only like you're hindering yourself, but that's not a benefit to your team either.
Oh, I have a question regarding AI too. With this AI behavior overhaul, is the AI gonna pick different weak spots for every tank? Or is it gonna apply the same ones on everything like now? Like, is there gonna be a change in like accuracy, or is there gonna be a change in weak spot selection? Or both?
I don't really know how the AI works right now, or at least how it's supposed to work. So I can't say.
Alright. Oh, then I have another question. This is a bit more complicated.
Can I get just in there between,
Oh,
because
yeah, sure.
it's ATGM and PvE again. the swing fires are one of the worst offenders. Apart from their behavior, I'm noticing absurd damages, even at tier 5, for example. So I've been playing tier 5 a lot in PvE, and I've got like 890, 920 damage rolls, and I find that very, very high. I don't get damage rolls from anything else, even from the big heat shells of the Shuriken or something like that. So that's very high damage from this swing fire missiles. And even at low tier, 900 is a lot of damage at tier 10, and at tier 5 it's absurd,
catastrophic.
Yeah. Believe it or not, but the swing fire has the highest caliber in this game. It's 170.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, even though it does so much damage in PvE, it's one of the most useless vehicles in PvP. So we either find like a way to make it more reliable and do less damage, or I don't know what else can be done about this wing fire. Like, it's absolute cancer in PvE when the AI drives it, but it's pretty much useless in PvP now because you get a saber and the wing fire has pretty much no redeeming feature to it. There is so many question marks in using it. It's not a vehicle that should be in PvE as an AI, because at tier 6 there is nothing that can reliably stop those ATGMs and those hurt. But at the same time, if it was removed from PvE, it could handle getting buffed to be useful in PvP, or have the competition of it nerfed a bit to make this wing fire more relevant. Because it cannot have the same, like if you boost it to make it usable in PvP, it's going to be even worse than in PvE. And the thing is that it doesn't add anything to PvE, for the simple reason that I've tried playing tier 6 PvE. Like I went into a stream with Deviant, I tried the SM1, and which I named the moving terror ring, and guess what happened? Our wing fire spawned, which I didn't even see because he was on the edge of the map, and he shot me for 1800, and I couldn't do anything. I even smoked up, I tried to go into cover, I tried to, you know, wiggle the dang tank to try and sway the missile from murdering me, but it still did. Like, it's only a missile that spawns and that you cannot kill before it kills you. It adds anything. Like, if you are planning to overhaul the AI and still keep a vehicle that has no purpose other than low panning you every single time it spawns, I don't see the logic in doing both.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you're overhauling the AI, maybe take away the ability of the AI to guide the missiles even after they're killed.
Or even after you're not spotted.
Yeah. Yes. But the kill thing is a thing. Spotting could also be a spotting thing. But you kill the vehicle, but the missile's in the air. Yeah, you've lost. Sorry.
Still following you.
Yeah.
Pinpoint accuracy, might add.
So that's.
Yeah, can I go ahead and ask this question? I have been watching like the suggest your French premium tank from tier 7 to tier 8, and it's about all the upcoming French vehicles and all that. And I was wondering, like, if the Leclerc is supposed to be one of the most mobile and agile tanks in the modern, warfare scenario, how are you even going to make it look worth it compared to a tank like the Type 99A2 that already goes at over 85 and already has 60 degrees of hull and turret traverse? Are you planning on rebalancing the honestly very overkill mobility on some MBTs just to make MBTs that are supposed to be the most mobile in the game, like the Leclerc, or maybe even the Type 10 or the K2 Black Panther, tanks that are actually renowned for having the best mobility in their class, compared to tanks in this game that already have over-the-top mobility and agility?
Well, I mean, the tank is still half a year away, so hard to say right now. We don't have a working model yet. That's so the balancing process hasn't even begun.
Okay.
To get a bit broader view, can you tell us what do you see the different classes, what the role of the different classes should be? Because you can't balance the tanks like they're balanced in reality. In reality, an MBT is bad at everything because it's the most expensive, because you pay for it. In the game, you can't use that balance. People get light tanks not because they want light tanks, but because they can't afford a main battle tank in their country.
Yeah,
so you have to balance it according to roles, I think, and you're already doing that.
So I suggest you go to Armored Warfare website, go to the guide section. The link is on the right side, and there are like vehicles and classes on the right side. There's a sub-menu for each class, and basically the way we want it to be, I'm not saying it's always perfectly matched, but the way we want it to be is described in each developer diary. In that section, there's one for every class. I mean, I could read it, but
no. Is there a way? Is there a way in the game interface for a player to know that or to see that in game? Is there a way to point the player in a specific direction at the moment?
Well, ideally, players would figure that out from the way the class behaves in the game. But I agree, this is one of the biggest problems. Where players don't really know what to do. On the other hand, the stuff that's really like strange, that's like Spitfire or the Terminators, only appears in like mid-progress. So ideally, by that time, the players will have already figured out that the battle tanks are battle tanks, light tanks are lighter and faster, AFVs are for scouting, and so on.
But are there really? Isn't there, at least in PvE, I'm playing in PvE, there's a lot of blend over. For example, there are vehicles from a class that should behave, for example, like a long tier, like a sniper, but their actual statistics give them the ability to behave in other roles better than the vehicles that are planned in this role. For example, the PL01 is a mini main battle tank. It's not a light tank. If I compare it to the new tier 10 light tank, I don't see any redeeming qualities in the new light tank. For example, there's too much bleed over. Like the Terminators, not only are they like slower scout vehicles with more firepower, but they're also one of the most armored vehicles in the game. So they're a main battle tank. They actually perform better as many main battle tank in the armor role. That's a point. There's very much bleed over, or so that some vehicles are better than intended than vehicles intended for the role.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be some sort of bleed over because first, every class has some sort of margin for mine battle tanks. You have on one hand Leopard 1, which is basically a light tank. On the other hand, you have the Challenger. For tank destroyers, you have like super heavies like those Terminators, which are, as you said, basically main battle tanks with missiles. On the other end of the spectrum, you have something light like a Jalo, which is basically like a light tank, but it has wheels and so on. So there's never going to be like a totally clear definition for each class. And it wouldn't be even fun. I mean, would it be fun if the tank destroyers like totally sucked in close combat, or if all of them did? It wouldn't. Obviously, if you have a situation where a certain class does something better than another class, that the second class is supposed to do better. This was the situation of pre-balance 2.0 light tanks, which were basically superior to tank destroyers in every aspect. Then you have a problem, obviously, and it's going to be it's going to be addressed. But unless it's such a critical state, and there's a lot of leeway in the balance.
Okay. Have you gathered statistics about the new Oscar Faraday vehicles? And if you have, what are the general actions you're gonna take? Like, if the Ruicat is not really performing well, have you noticed it? Are you thinking of doing something about it, and so on? This was just an example.
Yeah, there's a list of actual feedback, and there's a list of things that are supposed to be done, but until we see 0.25 nodes, I think it's safer not to say any specific changes because this stuff changes on daily basis.
No, I'm saying Oscar Faraday because the general trend of new vehicles is that they are in some way trying to compensate for the fact they're incomplete with a gimmick. Like, for example, the Ruicat has poor acceleration and horrible gun handling and gun damage and DPM, but it's got the armor gimmick, so it can take players by surprise by bouncing a shot. The Ruicat has underwhelming burst damage for a tank destroyer, but tries to make that up with a quirk that is incredible mobility and nothing else. Or maybe the K21 at C8 has no usable alternative to AP because the ATGMs fly very slow and the rest is HE, but is trying to make it up with an ungodly amount of camouflage. I mean, seriously, the thing has one less camouflage percentage than a Sphinx, and it's 4 times the size of a Sphinx. It's got more camouflage than a Wilk. And it's a light tank.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Like,
but basically, yeah, the quirk balance is sort of intended. What we decided to do is, and now I'm thinking how to put it exactly because I don't want this to be misunderstood, but basically we would like to introduce vehicles with interesting features, unique features. So, for example, I can give you an example of a thing that's not going to happen, but because that's probably safe. But for example, there was a device for the OT64, and I know everybody loves OT64. So
best tanking
yeah.
game.
Yep. So there was in real life there was a device where they put like a rocket engine to the back, like unguided rockets, and it was basically used to make it go really fast for a short duration of time when exiting water. So basically, we were
Please
talking
put
about
it in the game.
Please do that.
Yeah.
A Staples joke or something like that.
No, it was actually a pretty funny idea, but this is not happening. But what I mean is, there are going to be unique things to use several tanks that other tanks don't have, for example, the ability of Type 99 to accelerate the LT active ability. So that's intentionally there, and we are moving basically in this direction. And I'm willing to bet that the Leclerc is going to have a similar gimmick, so to say.
Oh,
Frank.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. For April Fools, can all of the Polish vehicles have a Poland Bull skin? Can the active
especially
boost...
the PL1.
Can the active Frank?
Afraid not, but it would be really funny.
Can the active boost be renamed to Rush B?
That's actually probably
just
doable.
for April's Fools, just for a day.
That's probably doable with the Rush B. That's not a bad idea. We're going to propose it.
Oh god.
For my personal level of feedback, there is a very wild shift towards the power dynamic in Armored Warfare. On one hand, you have the low tier situation where heat rounds and AFVs are basically dominant. The only good MBT at tier 3 is the Leopard 1, and that's simply because when armor doesn't matter, whoever has the best heat shell does. And then we get all the way to tier 10, in which the most overpowered vehicle in the game is basically the Sphinx, because of how good it is in the hands of a player, and even a bad player can still do really well in the Sphinx and shit on people. What thoughts does anyone have towards trying to adjust vehicles so that there aren't vehicles which can absolutely just shit on people and they can't do anything about it?
Well, I think that should be the aim, but the problem would be how it comes out in the end. And nobody's perfect, so, and there are a lot of circumstances. So yeah, ideally everything should be balanced, but that's never going to really happen. But there should be a baseline where everything moves around.
Related
we
to
don't
that,
have a baseline.
Yeah.
Are you happy with damage being tied to gun caliber? Are you going to keep that in game? Because that's a way to balance. It's a very important part of the game. But you tied damage to the caliber, and it's very hard,
Thing is that I don't think they're even keeping it anymore. The Thunderbolt at tier 9 does 60 more AP damage than all the tier 10s using a 120. So it's got a lot of inaccuracies or like oddballs that don't make much sense. And like the Thunderbolt getting an AP buff was to compensate for like the bonus damage you used to have, because I remember way before Balance 3.0 that the Thunderbolt had a massive AP bonus damage. Like it had 30% like the Armada. And they buffed the AP damage after Balance 3.0 to make it like feel consistent to how it used to be. But now like it's got a higher damage per shot than a 120 on tier 10 despite being tier 9. Make it one of the most powerful light tanks tier per tier, even considering the Stingray 2, which is incredible. Like, are you planning to fit some damage on certain shells first, or are you content with the Thunderbolt or every other tank with a low caliber that somehow does almost as much damage as a 125 or a 140?
Well, I think that the devs take a sort of like a holistic approach to balance, more like this stuff is balanced in context of other vehicles' properties, so I don't really think that like a separate gun damage balance is a thing, or that the tying to gun caliber is something that's set in stone. There was a talk about tying the damage to muzzle energy, real life muzzle energy, but of course then they looked at the Armata and the 152 guns, and they were like, holy fuck, so no.
And you've got turrets ripping off of bodies,
yeah.
So I think it's just one big bunch of properties that's balanced together, not just gun balance besides.
I think another balancing about actual statistics of vehicles is of course a thing, but I think there should also be like a feedback pipeline for balancing around the current meta, because that's a problem again. The current meta in PvE is ATGMs, and there is no statistics for has turret ring exposed in a vehicle. So there should be I think you should pay very good attention to these meta feedbacks, so that there are meta statistics that are not included in the vehicle itself, but come from the circumstances surrounding how it's played, and that should be, I think, a bit more of a focus in balancing.
Why?
Yep, as I said, for example, in PvE at the moment, the meta is ATGMs, so I'll take a tank that's less armored, but then it's alternative, and but it has its turret ring covered, and I'm immune to 50% of the damage. So
yeah, okay, but
that's not represented in any statistics of the vehicle. The vehicle doesn't have a setting, has an exposed turret ring, so you can't balance in. You can look at the statistics and see, oh, the other vehicle is better because it has more armor. But in the current meta in game, there is no. That's exactly the opposite.
No, well, first, there is such a statistic. I mean, we can see how many vehicles get turret ringed and so on. Secondly, why would we rebalance the vehicles based on this statistic when we know that, like, a month from now, it's going to be all changed?
No, I'm not saying that you should do it now, but I think that this kind of statistics should be like a bit more included or weighted in the balancing, because that's what actually the player sees when he's playing the vehicle.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It's just it's a lot of things going together, to be honest. Like for example, I don't know, if we talked about the turret rings and the ATGM damage to them, you might have noticed that we already announced the AI changes for 0.24. This didn't happen, but obviously we didn't rebalance the vehicles in order to compensate for this stuff either. But the AI overhaul didn't happen for another reason that wasn't really related to it. So in the end, we were left neither with some sort of a turret ring hotfix, so to say, or the AI rebalance. So this stuff happens. You know, that's pretty normal in development, actually.
Okay, maybe you should I think communicate this to the player as well, so that people don't get to hang out at supposed nerfs or buffs to other vehicles, so that they see that you tell them that you see more than the statistics of a vehicle. Maybe that will help some communications problem also, I think.
Well, there was a developer diary on this topic, and we said that we would do it. And, okay. But you're asking anyway, so you tell me how effective this communication is. Really, not much, unfortunately.
Okay.
Oh, I have a question. Can I? Does somebody else want to go, because I've been talking for a while? And
just talking about the ATGM spam, and one of the things SilentStalker said was main battle tank supposed to be the main part of playing the game. The other tanks are peripheral. Why not in PvE make most of the opponents you face well, rather than so much missile firing vehicle? Just increase the percentage of amount of main battle tanks the opposition you're facing in PvE.
Yeah, I thought I had games where I didn't see a single MBT on the AI team.
Yeah, this is because if main battle tanks are supposed to be the premier vehicles to use, why not also make them the most common vehicle you face in PvE? And that will ultimately reduce the amount of ATGM missiles you're facing.
Because well, there are actually several reasons for that. First, PvE players are not looking for PvP experience, and facing an opponent that you have to know, that you have to target specific spots on, that's actually PvP experience. Unless you obviously, I mean, you can nerf main battle tanks in PvE, but what would be the point? Actually, before Balance 2.0, the armor of MBTs in PvE was nerfed. Then only in 0.19 was it returned to standard values. But anyway, another answer is
saying increase the frequency that main battle tanks that you see in the op. That's all we're saying. And
yeah,
that would
but why? I mean,
will reduce the amount of ATGM.
Well,
That's the
yes,
why.
and
You know, because
I mean,
most of the other vehicles, wing fires, you know, and all those other vehicles tend to fire so many missiles. Half the tanks that you're facing are ATGM vehicles.
no, this is not how PvE balance works. What you have is right now a bunch of soft targets that can hit you back. If you replace no, don't laugh. This is basically intentional. If you replace them with mine battle tanks, you will have a lot of hard targets that you will have to spend some time on learning how to defeat, and that's not really what the PvE experience is about, at least not in Armored Warfare. And at the same time, you will have even the missiles are actually less, so to say, cheaty than if you had main battle tanks targeting your weak spots, because the missiles have some sort of flight time, and the main battle tanks would just fire AP shells at your weak spots, and yeah, good luck. So in the end, what you suggest would lead to more frustrating experience for common players. Perhaps not you. Maybe you would enjoy it, but average players, casual players, they wouldn't, and that's what's PvE all about. I mean, PvE is not supposed to be a hardcore experience, except for the highest mode in special operations, which is difficult.
Why did something as meme-tastic as putting a black hole in Coastal Threat we used to cross under the bridge not included in the patch notes? Because it's hilarious. I've seen like 5 people drown in that spot in one single PvP match.
Not to mention, it's the third time they changed that map. At first you were able to cross only under the road bridge. Second time they made the map so you can cross between both bridges, and now you can't cross at all.
And you die.
It is
Horribly.
hilarious to see Arcangelo die in Rage, though.
2 times.
Yeah, we
2
need to
times.
mention that when the battle is starting, so we don't lose anyone.
Yeah, we mention it all the time, and people still drown in it. That's the thing.
Well, you guys are assuming that it's actually intentional and not a fuck up.
Awesome.
I don't know. I really don't know, and I can tell you for myself that I've been raging at the internal chats about stuff promising patch notes. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Remember the last patch notes, the ones for the last hotfix? They're like a bit lengthy. So about 1/3 of the stuff, when you compare to the ones that the Russians published, about 1/3 of stuff is missing on their end. That's because I went in manually.
Wow.
I checked the developer systems, and I basically manually checked each change that was made, and there's still stuff missing. I know about it, and I've brought it up, but yeah, it's something that we really have to work on, but I really don't know what to do about it on my end. Sorry.
Oh god. How do you sleep at night, Frank?
Well, better, since I
Jesus.
don't post in the community anymore.
Yeah, your presence is sorely missed. I must admit. Oh well. Questions, guys? Anything else?
Yeah, one more point from me about the chain of command thing regarding you cannot level up all your commanders to level 15. It would be great if at least you have, let's say, 5 or 6 commanders at max level, then you should be able to get all of them to reach the max level.
We're planning to change the system. I don't really know yet how exactly, because it's not really well documented, but there's just some changes planned in 0.25 or 26.
I mean, there should be a system to prevent players just rushing out one commander to level 15 and let the other ones left behind So you should keep playing 3 or 4 in exchange to level them up parallel, but not preventing them to get to level 15.
One way that you could implement that is if to hinder people doing that, should I say, you could put a cap on so that only one commander can go up so far before you level up 2 more, and so on, so forth. That's one way you could do it.
There once was a system pertaining to commanders. There once was a talk about a system about commanders that have special abilities but are restricted to, let's say, a vehicle class, or maybe to specific type of vehicles like Russian MBTs or something. Is something like this planned?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Actually, I don't really think this was ever planned, so I don't know how all your information is, but
it's
might be
old from the other publisher, maybe then.
Yeah, that's a lot of Obsidian plans.
The publisher is the same.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
remember that was very far back in Obsidian times. A developer update, something like that.
While we're on command.
I can't hear you, mate. You cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blank spaces on commander skills.
They should do something, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, like, if a commander has a lot of blank spaces you are forced to go through, why not have those blank spaces actually put up boost on the core skill, for example? That could be a way to make them feel like you're not wasting everything for only one thing.
They do that. Go to a blank space, you do base skill.
But just the normal rates for every level.
Yeah, for the level. It's the rate for the level, not for the blank.
For the
skill.
level, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, as an example, you are going through 15 levels, and the skill goes from 10% to 30%. Like, if you go through 5 blanks and are leveling up 15 levels, it's not gonna be 20%, but it's gonna be like 25. So it's gonna be 35 in the end. Just a small example.
Like consolidation
Kind of
price.
getting the ask for leveling 2 million XP, which is quite a hefty ask since the GLOPS changes, for basically no return.
So that was the question?
Yeah.
Take care, Rumplebunker.
So...
User disconnected from your channel.
But blank spaces are effectively worthless.
Yeah, I mean,
but they do serve a purpose. They make you able to have different skill trees, like formats. But in the sense, they literally do nothing but make your commander level up.
Yeah.
They could use a small boost.
Yeah, there shouldn't be. That's the trade-off. Can I get to a skill I think it's worthy faster and trade a few blank spaces, or do I go the long way, take everything else? But at the moment, I think too that like doing totally nothing, that's a very much a penalty. Like doing a small boost to your core skill, that would actually be fun.
Oh, and I have another question. It's still about the patch notes, I'm sorry. But in a few patches back, we were like given the information that, for example, the survivability kit was also supposed to give us internal module health. But it happens that the current survivability kit only does increase crew HP and falling damage reduction. And on the same note, like some commanders like Sabrina or Victor should have had their skills like changed a bit, either in position or in nature, but we are still getting the same skills and their same like arrangement in the stable version, despite the patch having gone through. Like, is that still a miss, or just
the best of my best guess is this is a localization error. Basically, in Obsidian times, the game was in default in English, and there was a localization to Russian. Now it's vice versa, obviously, since the devs are in Russia, and there's a lot of strange stuff going on. Like, for example, why Eric Zaitsev was called Eric Zaitsev. He was supposed to be called Andrei, and I mean, this happened because one person in the localization department made an error, and we fixed it. But another really strange thing was that we've always had these names for maps, you know, like pipelines and Barren Divide, where the Russians renamed them after real life locations. And in the last 2 patches, basically they didn't really bother to introduce the approved names
User was
anymore.
moved to your channel.
So what we got was names like Pleternica and what was the last one, Grindelwald. And now it seems they're official. So it's like there's lots of strange stuff going on in localization. We usually try to fix it. In fact, this is one of my new jobs, is to go over some localization text and make sure there's no obvious bullshit. But we are trying to hotfix these issues as much as we can via micro patches, because localization micro patches are really easy to do, but everything else is not. But these are. So we are trying to keep up with this. But if you see any strange stuff, strange translations, strange formulations that you don't understand, please report it. And I'm going usually through myself and Cage, who is in this chat as well, our new North American CM. So he's going through this stuff as well. We report it, and we try to get this fixed as soon as possible. But yeah, this is like, when you see some sort of really strange texts, or for example an icon changes and the text doesn't, it's in 90% or 99% it's a localization issue.
Oh, and sorry, I keep asking questions, but we used to have an in-between state of the crew members on a tank. Like, a crew member was fine, then after some damage it got injured, and after more and more damage it got killed off, and the debuff was much bigger. Now in this game version we only have alive or completely dead, in which case you use a medkit. Are there going to be further works on the crew system, or is this binary systems gonna stay for a long while? Because it makes things like crew damage kind of inconsistent. Like, for example, when you used to be firing an autocannon, you can use the crew damage because it does, over time you kill off a crew member. But if you're firing a tank gun, a 120, you have crew damage. You can boost the crew damage all you want, but you will never destroy or damage a crew member with one shot, for example. So it's very unreliable. Crew damage in this game is much less important than just saying module damage, because it's much more inconsistent. And unless it gets buffed, are you planning to overhauling the way the crew is damaged, or how it reacts to being damaged? Like with our crew overhaul you announced a while back, are you going to revise the way damage influences its performance?
I don't know. Sorry.
No problem. I was just trying to get something out of you.
Other modules have damaged.
Cut out again.
Injured.
Go ahead,
or
try again.
disabled. So if other modules is damaged or disabled, crew members should be the same, injured or disabled.
Yeah.
That's exactly what. Just
I
follow
have
the
a
same
weird feeling that this actually changed in Balance 2.0, but it might have been one of the one of the undocumented things, but I don't remember that to such a detail. Maybe we wrote about it in some patch notes somewhere and I forgot. But yes, it's true that the crew now works in binary, and yes, it's true that the disabled crew doesn't have the effect it should have. On the other hand, there was a very strong, let's say, opinion both in Obsidian and in Mail.ru that driving crippled tanks is not fun. Case in point, Turret Ring. So having another element that would cripple your tank seriously is generally not a great idea. But we'll look into it. I'll ask.
Yeah, the thing is that I see a lot of people going out with either 2 or even 3 repair kit consumables, because crew damage, like the possibility of one of your crew members even getting killed in this game right now, like in an MBT, is so little that the feature itself may as well be removed. Like, I get your point of the turret ring thing, but given the ability of repairing and healing your crew members, shouldn't a more constant danger of having your crew member, like, having a reduced performance, not as big as killed, but, like, for example, it gets shot and maybe the bonus it provides, instead of becoming negative, it becomes smaller at first, for example, wouldn't that be applying more diversity into both commander builds to protect or damage crew better, or simply consumable diversity? Like, everybody in PvP usually rocks 2 repair kits because the medkit is useless in most cases. Wouldn't that be increasing, like, the diversity, the meta, or diversifying it at least?
Yeah, the thing is, the crew buffs also work for commander, and losing a commander is a pretty serious hit, isn't it? So it's not completely useless. It's just, I don't know. It's definitely something I will ask about.
Thanks.
Hey guys, any more questions? Can we expect a change to the assault maps? In PvP, in the assault maps here, like with a 15-15 crammed sideways into a map, meaning all the engagement ranges are much shorter, and in the maps the defenders usually have an advantage.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Actually, I've seen statistics where the defenders are usually actually the side that loses more. But anyway, we're looking into how shall I put it? Let's say we're looking into deciding what to do with PvP as a whole. No, it's not going away or something, but the way it is right now, the 15 versus 15 PvP battles, it's we don't have the population to support that. It's an obsolete mode, and nobody likes it really much. So we'll see.
We're just reducing it to like 10v10, something like
Isn't
that.
Isn't it obsolete because we don't have the player base? I don't think it's obsolete as a concept of PvP, player versus player.
No, not as a concept. We want a competitive mode, but in a bit of a, let's say, different direction. You'll see.
Okay.
I think the system without works now. We can get like the 8v8s, the 10v10s, where it's dynamic with the team sizes, actually works quite well.
And sustainable.
Yeah, that's true. We might actually have. We're discussing about making another arena, but without global operations, but with PvP in some sort of like 6v6 to 8v8. Also like limited to specific tiers, which otherwise it wouldn't be viable. Sorry, but what do you think of that?
That actually sounds like a good way to at least get a lot of people playing again and get them together in one tier.
And one of the main things that made modes like the arena dies, because while you are focusing on the player base into one tier, you're gonna be playing tier 5 for 48 days. And given you make the tiers like swap on a reasonable amount of time, they should be like always be interesting every day and not a monotone same tier every day for 2 weeks every time.
Yeah, making that tier cycle would be like a good alternative to just locking it at one place.
Well, something similar with what we had in Lords of War, right?
Yeah, when you have like 1 hour of tier 5, an hour of tier 7. That might be too much for such an event.
We won't have another Lords of War. That was cancelled altogether, but you'll see. I've seen some ideas about the clan mode that we mentioned before that look quite promising.
Well, that's good there.
Well, I don't know. Well, I think we can all agree. Even right now, the game is playable. So people who say it's not playable, maybe they're, I don't know, whatever. Personal
overly
reasons.
salty.
The problem is the player
Mostly
base.
that on general discussions, it's mostly people who play PvE who are bitching and moaning.
No, let's not go into that war PvP against PvE. You know, it's their choice. They can play whatever they want to do.
I'm just saying, I don't complain about either mode, so.
It's same, but I would like to see more players because that's what keeps us playing. We want to play against other players. We don't want to be forced to play something just because we have an account here and okay, I don't want to lose that money, or I don't know, I don't want to cut my loss yet.
I'm waiting for
well,
I would really love to play Global Ops on the North. All I'd say. I'm a dedicated PvE player, but I would love to play Global Ops on the North.
It's
I can't
possible.
I can't play on the European far away.
Yeah. I think we are discussing a change to global operations that I think you will like it, but we'll see when it comes, if it comes. So I don't really think I'm ready to tell anything more because everybody will just take it
under development.
Yeah.
As long as the new maps don't add in an AC 130 again, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's pure cancer, and I think we'll be removing it actually.
Yay! Oh, yay!
At least from the smaller maps.
I think what the guys from Sorry is trying to say as well is where we have been in the last 12 months, and seeing as that we are still playing the game, we appreciate all that you guys are doing, and we can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
That's actually positive.
And the new game modes or whatever form they're gonna take, they need to be attractive to new players. We are here already. We stick around no matter what, but they should be attractive for new players, and we need some of the players that left to see the potential and come back.
I don't think they're coming back. It's
same, but come on.
Yeah,
be positive.
No, I mean this is okay.
The end game content SilentStalker might bring some back because a lot of people who came here, maybe they got tired. I played World of Tanks for 5 years. I played 1,500 Clan Wars battles, but it was just too much, especially how that game is being run. But I think competitive gameplay will attract players back. At least a small percentage, maybe.
We hope so too, but I'm just saying really. How to say it best? Let's be not well realistic that too, but also let's aim where the game needs to be aimed, which is new players overall, and those new players should come from other sources, not the old players. I mean, obviously we are doing what we can to get the old players back. You might have noticed the newsletters, which got some people pretty salty, but yeah, there's no denying it. We offered free stuff to old players to get back. That's how it works, and it wasn't ineffective. Some came back to check out the game. Some even stayed. But my point is that it shouldn't become a meme, or it shouldn't become something like a point of salvation. Bring everyone back, because that's not going to happen. We need to aim for I know, but you understand it perhaps, you know, but these things they have this tendency to become like a rally cry, like bring everybody back or make it great again. You know, we
No,
need
no,
to.
no, look, dude. I completely agree because first of all, if you want this game to succeed, you need to be playing it. And if those people who left, maybe they're not willing to put in the effort. Let's agree that the problem with Armored Warfare that it was pushing for the same market that World of Tanks was already on. So a lot of people don't have the same patience they used to have with World of Tanks. But those people who left, I don't necessarily want them back because, okay, dude, you're not here, you don't want to play. I'm not gonna beg you to play. We are here, we're gonna play. Let's just get more players in.
Yeah, I think it's positive to hear that you're thinking about doing your own thing and not just trying to copy the competition. I think that's actually a positive thing, and that you're flexible enough to know your audience or to kind of anticipate what your audience wants. I think that's a positive thing.
Hey, we just had the arena event, and don't say anything about that. Well, still, I have a question though. About the T14-152 and how it was like handled in the Russian server, I think, because like there were some crates that could have the chance of dropping rental for that tank. Like, is it ever going to be available in a tech tree as an option to the T14, or is the 152 version only ever gonna be an exclusive?
It's an exclusive, but I don't actually really think that these crates were ever deployed. I mean, players found some art in the client. There was an idea. There was an idea of having a. Well, that's tied to a concept that I'm not probably going to reveal right now because I would get really my ass kicked because it's a big thing, but that's coming up very soon. But basically, there was like a reward crate, special one that would drop this tank as a rental only. It was like the tank is pretty strong, so it was felt that the best way to handle it it was rental only. This didn't happen. This tank available on either server right now. It will be, but under different circumstances. I'm not ready for that yet to discuss it. Sorry.
What's exactly making it overly strong? Is it the 1400 damage AP shells? Or something?
Yeah, it's basically the damage bonus for its shells, that if they hit, especially the heat shells, if they hit and they roll really high, and in combination with that infamous commander Cortez, it's really nasty.
Infamous and extremely rare.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. How are you, like, if it's very strong already, are you planning on nerfing either the reload time or the gun handling, or both?
I don't know. It's up to the devs. I tested that thing. I have it on my account. It was good, but I don't feel it's as good as, for example, Type 99-140. You know, the Chinese one.
Oh.
That one's better.
Oh, and one more thing, the Cornet EM, the new tier 10 tank destroyer. What was the reason of its delay? Like, I think, yeah, like I saw some like PTS footage, and it still was like very in the works. But are you also actually trying to figure out how a Sphinx with 8 missiles instead of 2 is going to be balanced? Because that could be a problem. Especially at your
that's a super specific question for me. Sorry, I can't really answer that. The Cornet is coming in one of the updates that hopefully in the near future it's going to be in a 0.24 updates. 0.25 doesn't have new tanks, or at least not the progression ones. But well, after that we're going to get shitloads of stuff.
Yay!
Are you gonna get a unskinned version of the Object 640 in the tech tree, or is that gonna remain like an exclusive with the Black Eagle?
Exclusive, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Actually, V, ask a question.
Sorry. I'm gonna be very, very honest with you, Frank. The
User joined your channel.
the marketing department in Holland, my.com, has it any leverage whatsoever on the marketing department of Mail.ru? I'm specifically referring to certain marketing disasters that have been happening lately regarding reskins and whatnot. I'm not sure if you've covered it already, but how much leverage does my.com in Europe have over Mail.ru?
Well, now you're assuming that the marketing department is not the same, but I really can't comment on internal corporate structures. That's really a big no-no. I mean, I'm just wondering, what do you mean by disasters?
Disasters? Okay.
Because I mean, the reskins work. You guys might not like it that we have like 5 different Merkava reskins. Hell, I don't like it. I personally, I actually pushed or tried to push really hard for Desert Storm Abrams to celebrate the Battle of Easting something, you know, the Desert Storm battle.
Logical.
But yeah, didn't go through. Instead, we get these skins, but there's an undeniable fact that if they weren't successful, if people didn't like them, and I'm not talking directly, specifically about you guys, then we wouldn't be making them. And quite frankly, it does feel yes, it might feel a bit like cheap that we have just or so you say it's just a reskin, but there are two things to that. First, if we were to make unique premiums, each unique premium would mean 1 less unique progression tanks. You know, so that's definitely something that needs to be considered. And the second thing is that we're preparing a skin system. We talked about it a long time ago, and now it's finally sort of nearing. It's not in 0.25, but it might come soonish after that. Which will change the whole dynamic. So,
good.
Skins will be basically skins. You know, like.
Wait, are you talking
Yeah,
about
that's where
premium skins?
customization system works really good for this game.
Sorry.
Customization system works really good for this game.
Yeah.
Where you buy the camo, not the tank with the camo.
Yeah, buy the skin, not the entire tank. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe like separate the tank, the premium status, and the skin. That would be even better.
Yeah, I can't really talk about that yet, and I mean, obviously there's a thing that players have multiple copies of single tank, and I think we have a pretty generous solution for that. So we'll see. But yeah, it's. I think you guys are going to like it.
Good.
Okay, guys. It is now 20:45 British Empire time, and
What's that?
Real lifetime.
Oh yeah, real lifetime, and it is 21:45 Central European Standard Time. Thank you all for coming. You are all welcome to discuss anything with you, but for now, I need to go. So thank you all for coming. It's been quite successful, and I hope you've all enjoyed debating and answering and getting your questions sorted by our lovely Czechoslovakian.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming, and see you all later.
Thanks for having us. Thanks everyone.
All the best. All the best.
Will we
Was
see
beautiful.
more of that? Like,
Thank you.
Disconnected.